you for joining us for Halton News. I'm Jessica Kading. There are 5 more active COVID-19 cases in Halton than there were yesterday. 2 of those new cases are in Burlington, 1 in Oakville, 1 in Halton Hills, and 1 in Milton. Our new total number in the region is now 54, with 8 active cases in Burlington, 12 in Oakville, 29 in Milton, and 5 in Halton Hills. We'll have more on what the region and municipalities are planning to do to keep these numbers low. But first, Halton police have released an update on the investigation into the dead body that was found in Milton last week. Police say the body was that of a teenager. Melissa Candelaria is standing by with more. Melissa?
Thanks, Jess. So I am here on Guelph Line at 10 Side Road in Milton at the scene of where they found the body of the teen. And police said today that the body was that of a 16-year-old boy from Brampton. Now, police say they will not be releasing the name of the victim at the request of the family. They say that he died as a result of a gunshot wound. Now, just to remind you what happened, it happened a week ago today. So June 30th, police get the call at around 6 in the morning by a passerby who found the body. And then officers came on scene, closed the road for much of the day in order to continue their investigation. And they want your help to complete this investigation. Investigators are asking the public if they have any dash cam footage, business surveillance or home surveillance anytime between June 29th and 30th in the area on Guelph Line north of the 401 and of course here at 10 Side Road. If you do have any information, no matter how small you may think it is, they still want to hear from you. All you have to do is call the department or you can call Crime Stoppers should you remain anonymous. With that, Jessica, I'll throw it back to you.
Thanks, Melissa. An Oakville teenager named Javon Hunter has been missing since yesterday. The 17-year-old was last seen around 8:50 yesterday morning in the area of 3rd Line and Glen Abbey Gate. Police are concerned for his well-being and are asking for your assistance to locate him. He's 5'8" and 200 pounds with a medium athletic build. He was last seen wearing a black t-shirt, blue Adidas sweatpants, Adidas sandals, and carrying a blue JanSport backpack. If you have any information that could assist officers to determine where he is, please contact the Halton Regional Police Service on-duty Staff Sergeant at 825-4747 extension 2210. Investigators have arrested a man who attacked a Burlington teenager on Sunday. An 18-year-old girl was walking on Palladium Way when a stranger grabbed her from behind and covered her mouth. He attempted to drag her into the woods, but fortunately she was able to struggle with him enough that they both fell to the ground and she escaped. Her screaming then caused her attacker to flee the scene, and she caught his license plate, a gray minivan, on video. She then called 911, and with the evidence she provided, the Burlington and Oakville Criminal Investigation Bureaus were able to arrest and lay charges against 41-year-old Tanos Al-Curry of Oakville. Al-Curry is charged with forcible confinement and assault. Anyone with information in regards to this investigation is asked to contact Detective Melissa Parsons at 905-825-4747 extension 2307. If you live or plan on going to Halton Hills, you'll have to have a mask with you at all times. Council has voted to make masks mandatory in enclosed public spaces. For more details on this, we spoke with Councillor Moya Johnson earlier this afternoon.
You know, even though our numbers are fairly stable right now, we know that the evidence that's been more and more coming out from the experts is that masks actually do make a difference if people wear them out in public. And so for quite a few weeks, we've been asking the mayor and the regional councillors to lobby the medical officer of health, because usually these things come down from the medical officer of health. And up until, she refused. So we felt like we were stuck without being able to do it, even though we were watching Toronto and Mississauga and Brampton and Wellington all around us. Their medical officers of health were recommending that masks be mandatory for people in public places. So we had a legal opinion from our CAO got us, and apparently because we've declared a state of emergency, we are able to do it ourselves without medical officer of health. And the other thing is the Premier was asked the other day whether he would do it for the province, and he declined, and he said that municipalities can go ahead and do it on their own. So that was our motive to move ahead without the medical officer of health recommendation, although she supports it. It's actually, they just tweeted out that they support masks for everyone. So I'm not sure why she's not making it a directive, but we felt that we wanted to do that to protect our citizens or residents that are out and about. We know that people are out and about more than they were 6 weeks ago. And there's much more risk of people being close to each other in stores and in other places where people gather inside. So this only applies to inside buildings, like retail stores, the library when it opens, malls, those kinds of inside spaces that are open to the public. When myself and Councillor Fogel wrote this recommendation on Friday, we had not been told that the region was going to move ahead. Again, it's not passed yet. So we do know that if the region does pass this bylaw or get a medical officer of health directive on the 15th, that it does supersede our bylaw. But we felt we didn't know that at the time. So we went ahead yesterday and made this and passed this. So we will be implementing the bylaw on Thursday at a special council meeting.
Residents across the region seem to be divided on whether or not a mandatory mask policy is needed, with some wondering why now when our numbers are so low, and others pleading with the local mayors to take immediate action. I spoke with Oakville's Mayor Rob Burton today for his response.
Well, I find that the opinion of people ranges the full spectrum, for and against masks, and frankly, for and against anything you want, like even chocolate ice cream. And so we need to have a public discussion of it.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, Regional Council is meeting on July 15th to discuss this, but you're having a special council meeting yourself tomorrow. Can you tell us about that?
Right, every one of the local municipalities in Halton, Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton, and Oakville, to do it alphabetically, are having council meetings this week to consider the evidence for and against mandatory mask bylaws. And one of the options in front of every council is to ask the region to do it. The region is, in the municipal act, the region's responsible for public health. And so there is a logic that it ought to be at the regional level. The four of us, the four communities that make up Halton, Burlington, Halton Hills, Milton, and Oakville, we share family members and friends. It makes sense that it be consistent among our communities. So there's a possibility that we'll wind up with a bylaw at the regional level. I do believe that we're all shocked at what's going on south of the border. I myself am impressed with how quickly it took off in those southern states where it's presently taken off. They've got cities down there where their intensive care units are full or nearly full. Those are bad places to be. We have a lot of capacity here in Halton, and over the last 100 days, we increased our healthcare system capacity massively. We've added the ability to deal with hundreds of cases, and in Oakville right now, in our hospital, there are no COVID cases. And for the last little while, the ones we had appear to have been from other places that didn't have.
Mayor Marianne Mead Ward joined us here yesterday on Halton News yesterday to discuss the possibility of mandatory mask bylaw in Burlington. And today, jointly with Ward 4 Councillor Shauna Stolte, the mayor is sponsoring a proposed temporary mandatory mask bylaw for all indoor public spaces in the city. It will be discussed at this Thursday's July 9th Corporate Services Strategy, Risk and Accountability Committee, with a final vote at Council on Monday, July 13th. Residents are encouraged to share their views, and you can request to speak as a delegate as well at Thursday's meeting at 9:30 a.m. or Monday's meeting by completing the form at burlington.ca/delegate or emailing the clerk's department at clerks@burlington.ca. Free Them is a not-for-profit organization that fights human trafficking here in Canada and abroad. They have a strong focus on preventative measures, including awareness and education. Free Them partners with organizations who provide aftercare for victims who have been rescued. Nikki Wesley spoke with founder and Oakville native Shayan Vidyata to find out what impact the pandemic has had on human trafficking.
whenever you see, when you look at any situation, whether it's in Canada, it could be in a continent like Africa, it could be, in certain areas in Toronto, wherever you have poverty and vulnerability, you will find human trafficking. You don't always need both to have human trafficking exist, but that combination is very strong. And so when you look at what's taking place in COVID right now, you have many different variables and factors that are contributing to this influx of human trafficking that's happening right now. And majority of it is happening online through cyberspace, where children and young girls are being victimized and exploited, also for profit. And you look at certain children where school for them was their only safe refuge, right? That was a place that they left, a home, which shouldn't even be called a home, but they left a house that was unsafe, and school was their safety place. And now you're stuck at home. You can't leave with maybe a parent who is sexually abusive or abusive, could have some type of addiction. And now you've got money as a major stress factor. And when you're already abusing a child so much, it can become an easier thought that here's an opportunity to make money off of, your child that's at home.
The pandemic has created numerous situations for human exploitation. Invidiata gives another example.
Tenants who can't afford to pay rent, and landlords are saying, well, if you can't afford to pay rent, you're going to have sex with me if you want to stay in your place. You're seeing things like that taking place as well.
With everyone online during the pandemic, Invidiata stresses the importance of educating our children about the very real dangers of predators on social media.
So the average age of entry into forced prostitution in Canada is 13 years old, which means in order to have an average being that low, you have to have a significant amount of children that are 9, 10, 11, 12 years old to bring down that average to the age of 13. Which means if you only start talking about human trafficking at the age of 13, it's too late. We need to start talking about human trafficking in a child-appropriate way. But children need to be made aware that, this is not okay. Understanding that if somebody meets them online, and this is kind of what I always say to parents, that if your child has access to a tablet, an iPhone, anything that has the internet or is attached to some type of social app, whether it's Tinder, Snapchat, TikTok, like all of these, right? There's a million of them now. If your child has access to that, then you must start having these conversations again in a child appropriate way, but they need to start becoming aware. And that piece is the number one, in my opinion, one of the most important that is still missing today, not only in the province of Ontario, but all across Canada. Like if somebody pops in that you don't know, that your kid does not know, your child needs to be empowered to, number one, not be afraid to tell you. That's another component of it. A child needs to feel that they can approach their parent and say, hey, I don't know who this person is, and they've reached out to me, mom, dad, like, what should I do? Can you take a look? Right? But if you don't have that conversation, your kid's not even going to know to even come to you and talk to you about that.
With the prevalence of human trafficking at hotels along the 401 corridor and 2/3 of Canadian cases being in Ontario, human trafficking cannot be ignored. To find out more, go to freethem.ca and check out their list of resources. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
Still ahead, how Halton Women's Place has had to pivot during the pandemic and why it's a bad sign that they've been receiving less calls for help. We'll be back with that story plus our local weather forecast next. Thanks for staying with us here on Halton News. Now, normally if you were to hear that there were less crisis calls for help, you would think that's a good sign. But as Carm Boltzo of Halton Women's Place explains, during the pandemic, having decreased calls for help was actually a great cause of concern.
things within the shelter that had to change because of COVID, but also, our crisis numbers and the women coming to our doors, they actually stagnated, I guess, in the very beginning of COVID and probably till a couple of weeks ago. And that concerned us and concerned shelters across Canada because that's when we realized that these women were stuck at home without a chance to make that phone call, to reach out to not just us, but to a friend, a family member, some sort of support system to let them know that they were in danger. So that was really concerning and has been concerning still for us, for our partners, like the police and the region. But we are starting to see our crisis numbers go up again, which means that women are having the opportunity as stage 2 is opening to make that call and to reach out.
Now, another thing that's changed is, of course, you haven't been able to do your fundraising initiative. So how is Halton Women's Place pulling through this?
It's been a challenge for sure, just like every charity. I mean, we're very lucky to be in Halton and have such a generous community, but it has been a huge challenge. We had to cancel our June golf tournament and other third-party events that were happening from, April and now right into August or have been canceled. So we're looking just at that, at least $50,000 of a dip right there in our fundraising dollars, which is very difficult for a charity. But we're trying to reach out and have been reaching out to our community to let them know how they can support Halton Women's Place still without having to have big crowds. We are trying to engage our community in something called Fill Your Cup, which was one of our new campaigns, which means, if you're doing a Zoom meeting or a Zoom get together with friends over coffee or wine, definitely a chance to fill your cup, not just with your drink, but with a donation as well towards Halton Women's Place, and tag us through your social media with your friends and your drink. We know people are now getting together on patios and getting together at people's houses, within your social bubble. Get together and also have a donation part of that, so that it's, everybody wins in that situation. But also just asking people, have some fun with your friends and your coworkers. You can do it so easily with your family. It doesn't have to be a big crowd, but challenge yourself to do a bunch of push-ups and get people to pledge you. Read with your family, with your kids, and say for every 100 pages we're going to donate to Halton Women's Place. There's so many different really cool, unique ways for you to get engaged with people around in your social bubble, but also be able to provide a donation to Halton Women's Place. So we're looking for those creative ideas.
Lots of great ideas there. And just for those out there who are watching, who do still want to reach out for help, can you let us know what they should do to get in touch and how they can stay safe?
Absolutely. So our crisis numbers, our crisis and information numbers have never closed. Our shelters have never closed. They can definitely see our website at haltonwomensplace.com, but also our crisis lines at 905-332-7892 and 905-878-8555. They can always call 24/7.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all you do for those in the community.
Thank you very much, Jessica.
A beautiful look out there at the gorgeous weather. Too hot for some, however, that we've been experiencing. There is a risk of thunderstorms this evening. Tomorrow, even hotter. Those clouds will clear overnight, revealing full sunshine. So if you are going to be outside, please do protect that skin. Bring a hat and some water with you. There are some cooling stations. Perhaps look those up before you head out as well. By the weekend, we are starting to look at those temperatures to be slightly cooler, cloudy skies, and rain expected, though only a 40% chance on Friday. That risk of rain increases to 60. Either way, cloudy weekend will give you some reprieve from that sunshine. Next Generation Manufacturing Canada, otherwise known as NGen, are launching a $30 million strategic supply challenge. They're looking for opportunities where companies can deploy advanced manufacturing capabilities to establish globally competitive and sustainable production systems right here in Canada. If you'd like more information, join the webinar on Thursday, July 9th from 2 to 4:30 to discuss program details, eligibility, and how to apply. And now let's take a look at how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. Still ahead, Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya, a local psychiatrist, addresses the various components that make you, you, and how you can blend those aspects of your personality to make a cohesive whole. The analogy is also used to explain how you are one ingredient as employees, and together with your coworkers, you can work together to make something better than what you can each do individually. More on that after the break. Thanks for staying with us here on Halton News. I'm Jessica Kading. Dr. Bhattacharya joins us today with a different way to think about the various aspects of your personality and how they work together. Let's take a look.
Hi, this is Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya speaking to you from the Empathy Clinic here in Oakville during the pandemic. So today I want to talk about ingredients. We all have ingredients inside of us. And also when we get back to work, there's going to be ingredients, which are the people that we work with plus the environment that we're working in. The best way to manage return, whether it's to ourselves or to our environment that we're working in, is to look at all the ingredients separately first. So imagine that there's a part of us, maybe our compassion, our capacity to say no, maybe even our self-esteem that might need a complete overhaul. It's going to be very important to look at those things separately. So maybe take a piece of paper and write down everything about yourself that feels like an ingredient of you. If you have trouble with that, ask a friend or a family member. They'll often be quite happy to help you with that. And you can help them with theirs next. Now, let's see if we can look at all the ingredients of a cake on a counter. Individually, separately, they're not very palatable. But that's the time when we can change the overall balance, when they're separate. Once we've mixed them together in that goo and then put them in the oven and bake them, now we have a much more palatable thing, a lovely cake. So I want to think that if you can see yourself as having ingredients that you could actually change during this time, then not too salty and certainly not too sweet, then you can have the right balance of the ingredients inside you, a perfect blend. And that can apply to your company or your business of work as well, looking at people who are working together as ingredients. So stay safe and see you next time.
Thanks so much for staying with us here tonight on Halton News. You can find more on yourtv.tv or join us on social media at yourtvhalton. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Keating.